Hello, everyone. My name is Sylvia Bielik. I am part of the MAD2 Committee for the Arts. I'm a consultant at Learn, and I consult for the arts as well as for open creative spaces, working with teachers to make meaningful hands-on experiences for learners of all ages. I want to welcome you to this second Arts Connection online PD that we have for arts teachers across the province in the Anglophone sector. You know, I know it's a difficult time, and this was a very short notice Zoom, but we, the consultants and MAD2, met last week, and we thought, you know, things are moving really fast. There's a lot of demands being made on your time. We wanted to get together at least one time before the beginning of school, just to hear from an educator as to what her cheminement, as to what her pathway has been through planning for pandemic. Maybe learn from each other as well as to what people's collective planning for pandemic is being, as well as leave with some files containing recommendations that you can either bring to your administrators, but also use yourselves when you're working on valuing the arts in this new way that we will have of educating in 2020, 2021. So some of you might be asking yourselves, what is MAD2? Who is MAD2? MAD2 is a subcommittee, it's a Dean subcommittee for the arts. So Dean is I forget what it stands for, but it's a network of educational directors. And they have mandated subcommittees. Those subcommittees are subject-based, and we sit on the arts one. Sorry, I'm moving lots of stuff, including the chat, just in case someone needs to tell me something that is happening. So these are the members, and you've heard of them. You've heard from them. They've introduced themselves, the ones who are here. Lynn Harper and Nicolas Doyon are the co-chairs, and then the representation you see below. There are other members that will probably be joining us this year, but they haven't been named yet, as well as the Dean representative, also unnamed. So these are the people right now, but more will be there. You are also here with some of my Learn colleagues who have been very gracious enough to assist in all the tech stuff and also moderating the chats and any breakout rooms that we might have. This is, you know, we're all learning a lot in a short amount of time. Doing Zooms for 100 people was not something that I thought that I would be able to do if you asked me about this back in March, and yet here we are together in a pretty large last-minute Zoom. So I wanted to start off with a quote. We started off last time with a quote. I don't know how many of you were here last time. You can type in the chat if you were. That would be great to know. But we did meet before as part of this group in June 29th. About 40 of you attended. And we started with a quote then, and I want to start with one now. And I think this sums up the way that I myself have been feeling when I make art recently. And the quote is that art is not always about pretty things. It's about who we are, what happened to us, and how our lives are affected. And I think that we can all say that something is happening to us right now and our lives are affected. So how we're going to move through this is the question. So today, the session outline, we will be planning for mixed scenarios. So we'll be hearing from Lynn Harper. She will be giving us a rundown of her planning process and give us a glimpse into how she's planning and the choices that she's making. We will follow it up with a list of recommendations that MAD2 has put together with Lynn's spearheading. And if we have time, we will go into breakout rooms and hear a bit from each other as to how you all are making plans for the new school year. The chat is there for you to use to ask questions. We might not always get to them. We might not always get to the questions, but we will definitely we will definitely put them in a parking lot, put them in a document for ourselves, and then we can answer them further on. I'm being asked to put my slides in share mode. You know, Christine, I like having the small slides next so I know it's coming, because I'm juggling a lot. So I hope that's okay. I'm just going to not put them in present mode. I know that you see them on the side there, but yeah, it's my own process here. So without further ado, I will introduce Lynn Harper, and then I will stop sharing my screen so that Lynn can share hers. I'm sure that Lynn can tell you more about herself if she so chooses, but I just wanted to say that Lynn Harper is a music educator, actually music and performing arts educator. She has been teaching for many years, has a wide variety of experiences under her belt. She's also a wonderful colleague and always inspiring and humbling to be around. So I will now stop my screen sharing so that you can all see Lynn and hear from Lynn. Over to you.
Okay. Oh, hi, my name is Lynn, and I am currently the music specialist at Chateauguay Valley Regional in Ormstown. I've been here for 16 years. This is starting 17 years. However, 15 years before that, I was elementary general music at an elementary school in Huntingdon, Quebec. So if you see, if it freezes, it's because I'm in a school surrounded by a cornfield, literally. And so we definitely have latency problems in this area. So I'm, if Sylvia just text me if I start to fade.
Okay, so I'll just jump in, yeah.
Fantastic, okay. So what I've been asked to do is just share a little bit of what has gone on for me. You know, everybody's reality is different, and so I'm going to just start with looking at the spring. So in the spring, even though we were told that we were non-essential, we decided, our department decided that we would create weekly challenges. We also all four of us, there's music, drama, all four arts here, and we decided that we would create online content for our students that they could access throughout the time that they were home. So I'm actually going to do some screen share and just continue talking. So for what works for me is my website. So I created, my website is on Wix, if you're wondering. And so what we did was we created weekly challenges that were available to the students, and they could then go and look at all kinds of stuff. So this is my weekly challenges. These are, and they could do whatever art they felt like doing. We heard from some of the students.
Oh, Lynn, I think you froze. Unless I froze.
No, you're good, Sylvia. I think Lynn froze.
Send me videos of them. Oh. I think I'm still here.
Okay.
Yeah. Are we okay?
Well, you're frozen, so, but we can hear you.
Okay, I'll just keep going. So the students sent me videos of them. I was able to then assess and give feedback. So I was able to do that. From my high school. And so what I built a compulsory arts course for them online. I gave lots of choice. I think this was really key because these were kids who didn't know me and didn't know necessarily what my expectations were. So I built very clear expectations for them. And I created an opening video for them to get to know me a little bit better. So I don't know how many of you have built Bitmoji classrooms, but I realize this is not my personality. So while I tried and I played with the platform, this doesn't work for me. I just look silly. And so I I created a YouTube video that describes me to the kids that are coming in and gives their parents a little bit of background as to who I am as well. So I was really clear with the kids and with the parents what they had to do. And my website platform worked for me. And I don't know what platform your school board is using, but for all of you, I think you need to think, what works for me? What worked for me before this situation, and how can I translate that into an online platform, or in a platform where I'm hybrid? Because right now my own reality is I'm going into a situation where some kids are in person and other situations where kids are at home and half of them are here. So I have to sort of like think, how do I reach them all? So I'm going to take you a little bit into this year. So here I am. I have loaded my grade 7 page with content for this year. So I'm going to walk you through it. This summer, courses and attended a bunch of webinars and tried to gather as much information as I could. The other thing I wanted to know was what's recommended, what's safe, and what is recommended. So later on, we're going to talk about some of the recommendations for the arts at this time. However, I really wanted to see what was in the research, what had been proposed by other provinces, and what could we do really safely. So with regards to this year, I wanted my kids, because who knows, if we had a case in the school and they had to close a pod, well, I need to turn on a dime. So those kids that are in my class might be at home tomorrow, and I have to be able to turn around and say, the content is there, we've already started it. So in grade 7, for example, I've already loaded the unit that I'm going to start. So, and then I've already loaded some of the things that I want them to listen to and analyze. I've already loaded all of the assignment sheets. Unfortunately, you can't click on them and go there yourself unless you're an NFSB person. So, because it's contained within the NFSB firewall. So if you are building a website, this was something somebody showed me in April. It was, I can put it in my OneDrive and then create a link that allows them to go into that particular file in my OneDrive. So for me, it was a perfect fit. I was able to load everything so it looks all organized in folders for myself. Now, usually in grade 7, I teach, just a second, okay.
Oh, Lynn, I think you froze again. So you're going to have to start from just a second. And in the meantime, in the chat, I've put in the website that Lynn's referring to. So if you want to follow along, you can also look there. And then just keep in mind that you can't access the files because they're hidden behind like a firewall for the kids to access.
So, and what I decided to do then is to build a guitar course for them. So I am in the process of building a beginner guitar course for grade 7 students. It's in the works. It'll be out in I would say about 4 or 5 days. By next weekend, that's my deadline, is the weekend to have it on the website. So, but all of that to say, once it doesn't matter that I put all this here. I'm going to use this for something else. And it has to work for me. And it really took me time just working my way through my process, unpacking the curriculum, saying what is essential, what are the essential learnings, what do I want to reach?
Take a picture of that. Sheila McLeod.
Join the meeting.
Okay. What can I do virtually? What can I support in school? How do I do it? So it's all of those little pieces. And I really and this is what worked for me. And I think that looking at what we did before Like, for example, at the end of last year, we had a performing arts group that didn't get to perform all of their big pieces. So my colleagues and I did online Zoom rehearsals and then recordings. And then we created YouTube videos using their voices, doing the scripts. And so then the kids actually got to perform their pieces. So we did an online open mic. So kids submitted videos, I strung them together, an MC did little bits and pieces of script, and we wove that together as a unit. So it's going to take some looking at what can we do, how can we rethink this, what can we create, how can we creatively build something that the kids are going to be engaged musically, artistically, and still feel fulfilled, even though they're not going to have the same experience as they did before. Sylvia?
Sorry, I was on mute. There was a question regarding the firewall for students, like what that means. I just understood that you had the files in a space that they can access, right?
Yeah. So, for example, in our portal, we have the Office 365, and so within that we have a OneDrive. So I've saved. Can I don't know. Can I show that? But no, I don't think I can. Anyway, it's a OneDrive. And so I've created all my files in there. So it looks like I've just uploaded everything and annotated everything. So you can get in only if you go in through our email address. If there's something on my page that you really want, please just send me an email. I'll go back to the top of the page so that you have, here's my email. If you're looking for my, my email. And if you're looking for, I'll send you whatever you need. Good.
Yeah, thanks, Lynn. So let's take a look at some of the maybe. Well, you can actually stay on the. Depends.
Oh.
We might want to share again, but I wanted to ask a couple questions. So, like, what were you thinking? Like, is this how you always teach with this website, or did you build this specifically for today, for the pandemic?
I had a website before, up until about 2017, and then I kind of let it go. And so rebuilding it didn't take an awful lot of thinking. I've taken some some web design courses too, so I had a little bit of background. But it's really very simple to do. A lot of it is it's intuitive. You just follow the directions. It's
right.
Like, yeah, I found it really easy to do. And you know, like, I'm not afraid to say I have no idea how to do that and call somebody and ask for help. And I think this year, it's always important, but I think this year in particular, we need to not teach in silos. We need to not be afraid to say, I need help. Can you please help me to do this? So this group right now, we're creating a community. So even if, you know, Frank is not your consultant, you know, like, send a message. And if you're looking for help in that area, just, you know, and you heard something today that interests you, we need to talk. We need to talk with our colleagues. We need to speak and compare notes and not be afraid to share and you know, and reuse, reduce, reuse, recycle, you know, chunk your lessons. Yeah.
So two things. One, when you put all that stuff on the internet, on a website, we can keep in mind that you built a website, but other teachers could be using whatever happens to be the thing that their school or school board is already using. So if you're using Google Classroom, you can do something in Google Classroom. If you're using Teams, you know, my daughter's school is using Teams. I know that the teacher's been, you know, busy putting stuff on there. You can use Teams to do this thing. But what I noticed when Lynn walked me through this last week is the transparency for students. So everything is really listed and laid out. There's nothing sort of behind the veil. And this means that Lynn is able to easily shift to an online scenario for both the students and potentially their parents who might be involved, right? Who might help them, especially, you know, she showed us grade 7. That's kind of like grade 5, 6, really. You know, that is, you know, those are steps that that they can follow that younger kids would be able to follow as well if they had to do stuff on their own if we move to an online setting. So that's something that I noticed. I see that we have questions in the chat. One of the questions is, what would you recommend if only Teams and Google Classroom were only options? Well, I would recommend using those things to create documents. You know, in a document, you can embed YouTube videos. So like you saw that Lynn had like, here are the 3 things that you need to listen to and do an appreciation about. You could embed those YouTube videos just in a regular Google document. So each of your assignments can be a Google document, or it could be a slide deck. You know, I have a colleague at Sir Wilfrid Laurier, Dan Hedges. He does everything using Google Slides. You know, his entire, all the courses that he teaches, anything that he does is all using slide decks. And he shares those with students, and students can go in and essentially, instead of having a website like Lynn, he just has a slide deck with the same information. Yeah, let's go to it's almost 4, so let's go to the recommendations document, and then we'll probably have time to, is there anything that you wanted to add, Lynn?
I think let's go into the recommendations. I'm seeing some questions, so
yeah.
let's deal with some of them.
All right, so let me just go back, and I'm going to share screen again. So last week, the MAD2 committee met, you know, at the beginning of the year, as people were just getting back to work, and Lynn had been working on a series of recommendations for our education, which we put together quickly into a PDF, and this is going to be available to you. We have like a whole, we made like a Google folder that we can share with you, so that you will have access to all the stuff that's in here. The presentation, Lynn's website, and then this, these recommendations. So this is essentially just a 6-page document, and it has recommendations for all 4 arts. So it's, you know, some of the things might seem obvious, but they're not in any one place. So that's the bonus here, is that they are now in one place. So we have recommendations for music education. In terms of, it's sort of divided into several sections. Why don't you speak to this part, Lynn?
So one of the things that I wanted to know for myself was, how far do I need to keep people away from each other? I read in the chat, you've been told you can't sing and you can't play instruments. Yeah, so yes, you need to be 2 meters away from the kids, and the kids need to be 2 meters away from each other. That's the big thing. So if you can keep those distances, you're going to need an awfully big room, which is why I opted not to do singing in my grade 7 groups, because I have a large room and I still don't think I can accommodate that with my grade 7 groups. So that's why I'm deciding to do guitar, which has its own problems. However, I have a collection of masks for myself. You need to mask. If you're going to sing, you need to mask, and you yourself need to be far enough away from them. Okay. Yes, I know they don't have to distance from each other, but when you're singing, it's a different story. Okay. Okay. Yes, exactly. So in certain situations, in certain provinces. Okay, I'm going to turn the chat off.
No, don't answer all the questions, Lynn. Just go through this and the questions will be, the questions will be answered. If not today, then tomorrow and in the future. Some of your questions are answered actually in the document. So you'll be happy to know that some of the questions regarding what to use for disinfecting is in this, and also in we have like a PDF PowerPoint that Lynn made, and that's also in the folder that we share with you. These are recommendations that well, first of all, they're based on a series of references. And so they've been put together based on sort of like the best practices that we have at our disposal. There are lots of sort of like recommendations that I feel are sort of flying around fast and loose. So we have to be armed with the science as it exists. And this series of recommendations allows us to do that, and allows us to advocate for things to be done in a safe way, and also advocate for the arts to remain a part of kids' lives. So this, for example, here in music education, you're going to have some supplies that you need. You're going to have some recommendations for vocal music, spoken word, and choral reading, instrumental music. So some of you have been told that you cannot do it at all. So that means that they've taken that choice out of your hands. But if you can advocate over the course of the year, because what you're told right now might change as people end up knowing more, and as we know more about these things. So these are the current recommendations for instrumental music. You need to have access to running water. You need to have a station for cleaning. You need to have a paper towel station for drying off mouthpieces. Perhaps instruments will not be shared, but people have their own instruments, especially when it comes to recorders, where they usually do have their own instruments. There are some here instrument safety considerations for brass and woodwind instruments, including like the releasing of water keys directly onto the floor with trumpets and with whatnot. Including also safety for percussions and strings.
So,
and then here. Go ahead.
Okay, so for strings, I've ordered. So for the strings, you need the wipes. Okay, so what my administrator asked me to do was to find a way so that the kids could do it themselves. So I purchased little individual ones for the strings, and then for the body, because you can't use that on the body of the instrument, you can use another disinfectant wipe, so like a Lysol wipe or something like that. But you have to be really careful with the body so that they don't use the alcohol on the body of it, because they'll strip the wood on your guitars. Good.
That was it? Okay, cool. Let's go back a little bit to what you were telling me the other day, Lynn, regarding what you had people do, how you had them recording themselves singing and sending it to you. So you had them singing at home, because a lot of people seem to be concerned about the singing and the aerosols. I think that it's one thing for early elementary, under 10, and another thing for high school. So I know that you've made the choice not to sing this year. I know that you have a lot of choral stuff at your school. And
yeah, I'm actually going to be running my choir virtually. So, and I have been, I ran choir rehearsals during April and May as well, virtually. So my mic was on, my camera was on, their cameras were on, their mics were off. And that worked really well. So, I mean, the kids are dying to get back to singing. They're dying to get back to rehearsing music. So I have no idea when we'll be able to perform it. However, there are ways of, I'm probably going to send out click tracks for them to record themselves and then send that back to me, which I can then put into a larger piece as I thread them all together. I have a music, oh my goodness, sorry. Sorry, my brain went dead, sorry. A program that knits it all together for me. So and that's what I mean by being creative. I'm going to be running my performing arts class virtually, some of them will not be in school, some of them will be here. So we're going to do a lot of that with Zoom or with Teams, excuse me. And so we're just going to make it work. We'll run script online, and even last year we ran rehearsals online. Sylvia, is anything else?
But you're not having them singing in your room, or are you having them singing in your room with a mask?
I'm not sure how many of them I'm at the beginning I'm going to have. I'm still waiting to see as well. But yes, I'm planning it, not in my room, in a probably either outside or in a much larger room,
Okay.
like an auditorium, where I can spread them completely around.
Right. So what you're saying is you're going to be adapting the guide. You're going to be using the guidelines as they are and adapting them for distancing. Adapting your teaching space to suit those recommendations. So if you have to go outside or if you have to go to a big room, that's what you're going to do. I know that does mean that you are lucky enough to have access to those spaces. And I know that not everyone does. So you'll have to, all teachers are going to have to figure out what are the best things to work that work from them.
One of the other things that I want to do starting in the fall is I want to introduce various apps and platforms to the kids. So for example, Flipgrid is one of the ones I want to use. I always find it to be a bit of a stressor in my grade 9s and 10s where I want them to play scales and I want to hear them play progressions, but it's, you know, I've got 30 kids. That's a lot of progressions to learn. So what I've decided this year is I am going to have them record it and send it to me. And then I'll have a record of them to mark in terms of assessment. And I can move on then. I think that that'll be a really, really good tool, but it also is preparation just in case. So they start to use things like that. And Soundtrap is another compositional tool that I would really like to be able to use this year. So there are things that I'm going to do to sort of prepare just in case with all of my groups. Thank you, Sylvia.
We wanted you to know that as arts educators, you're not alone, that we're thinking about you. I know there's a lot on everyone's plate, and we just wanted to make sure that we took an hour of our time and your time to check in to say, you know what, there's a network, there are people there that you can always come and ask. We might not have the answers, but we will collectively find the answers for you if we don't have them. So thank you. We will stay for those of you who want to stay. And for those of you who have to go, I wish you a very good afternoon.